Say this was actually doing some complex logic that we actually only need to happen for a brief time and then disappear. A good way of doing that for performance would be to put it in a timeline. So you can actually put any type of gadget in a timeline, and it will just be powered while the playhead is over it, like this, and then unpowered when it's on the other sides. So now if we play time, that warning comes up during that time, and then it goes away after that time, because all that stuff isn't being powered anymore. However, if you're worried about thermo, you could even emit this piece of logic. So I'm going to use an emitter. Now, it tends to be difficult to work with something that doesn't have a sculpt involved when you're using an emitter. So I'm just going to add a sculpt and then group this with the timeline or with whatever logic I'm using. This sculpt can still be just turned off so that it's not affecting performance in any way. And you can even, if I turn off preview invisibility so I can see it again, I can even use sculpture detail and turn it down so that it's very loose and doesn't take a lot of graphics thermo to exist within the scene. And now I can link this to the emitter, and we don't need speed and stuff. We'll probably have it once because this will happen. We'll just want it to emit immediately, and that's it. And then some logic could trigger that. So if we have just a simple switch, then we have this in memory once because it has to refer to what it's going to emit. But then when you turn this on, it's emitting it into the world. For pure logic, it doesn't actually matter where it emits to, so you don't have to worry about that. But if it's some actual object like this and you want it to be visible or something, then you can just open the tweak menu of the emitter and move it around, and you can grab the gizmo or you can grab the actual object itself and put it wherever you want. Yeah, so now if I play time and I emit it, then it's emitted this thing and it's going through the timeline, and then the warning disappears again because it's past this point. But that is always in the scene. So if I want this logic to process again, so I emit another one, it's going to add to thermo, and each time it's going to add more and more to thermo. So really I want it to destroy itself after this time. So I'm going to use a destroyer and just stick that in the timeline. And this is where having a group with a non-piece of logic in it helps, because I can now attach the timeline, attach the destroyer, and link it to the group. So after it's played through this bit of logic, it will do that bit of logic, and then later on it will destroy itself. So now I can emit that logic, and it will run the logic and show the warning, but then later on it will just destroy itself after it's done doing its thing. So then that's a very efficient way of doing whatever it is you want to do in there. Alternatively, if it's not like a time-based thing, but something to do with the logic, so when this bumps something, activate a tag when it bumps something, and I'll give it a name. So this is powered when it bumps something, and then we'll have a trigger zone that looks for that tag and looks for that name. I'm using up and down on the D-pad to get the name, and I'll just have it scene wide. So this wouldn't use a timeline because we're not worried about how long, what period of time we want this logic to work for. We just want it to work and do its thing. So I'll put this destroyer in the chip, and we can delete that timeline now. All we need is this chip. So after it gets emitted, we'll have it just display something on the screen so that we know it's still in the scene. And then when this detects that's that tag, we'll use the destroyer to destroy the whole thing. We'll use another switch to turn on movable in this object. So first I'll emit one of those logic pieces, and then while this exists and then this bumps something, then this is going to destroy itself. So I'll make that movable, and then it hits something and then just destroyed itself. So this destroyer could be triggered in any way you want it to, depending on when is the earliest opportunity. That's the key. You want it to destroy itself at the earliest opportunity and emit at the latest opportunity, so it exists and uses up memory or thermo for the shortest amount of time. Good examples for this is scoring logic. If you have some complex scoring logic, which I'm not going to build, but I'll just do a quick example. So now when you want to score this, you don't have to have this might have some complex logic to figure out, oh, it's part of a combo, so you add this and divide that, and you're in this section of the scene, so then that adds 2 to the score that you'll get, or gives you health or something at the same time. You can have all of that in one chip, instead of in every single place that you want to use it. So we'll emit it when we want to score, and then later, whenever it gets triggered, it'll destroy itself. So I'll just show that again. So emit it when you want to score, and then destroy itself when possible. And you could even have all that complex logic do its stuff, and then just have the destroyer there, and it will actually destroy the object on the next frame. So it will let it all run, and then it will destroy itself as soon as possible. So I'll emit. So each time I emit, now it's adding 5 to the score or whatever it was, and destroying itself immediately. So the alternative is, let's just say this has a load of logic in it. Right, so this logic alone costs 10%, as you can see in the corner there. So you probably don't want, so this is obviously for example, so if you have any logic that costs a decent amount, maybe just 1 or 2%, then you probably don't want this object to be existing in a lot of places in your scene. So you probably don't want that to have lots of copies of all of that logic, but instead, let's just say that stuff happens when you're in a zone like that, and we'll just have that look for a tag so we can easily test it, and we'll just remove this link for now. So this is just over here doing its thing, and then when a tag goes into the zone, yeah, so then it destroyed itself and added to the score. So you don't really want lots of copies of this, because that'll add to thermo quite a bit. Alternatively, you could do the same kind of setup as we had before. So we'll have this, I'll just copy this, have this grouped up with something, have the destroyer destroy the whole object, and then this with the trigger zone, this is the only thing powered from the start, so that's good for performance. But then also you just emit, this actual scoring logic when you need to. So then this is very thermo efficient. You can have tons and tons of copies, and it only costs a tiny little amount of percent. So then if this tag goes near any of them, it'll emit this object to do the scoring. So then you can see it like emitting in different places. So then this could be a collectible or whatever it is, and also destroy itself at the same time. So then it spawns the scoring logic and then destroys itself at the same time. But then this whole object is only 1, 2, 3, 4 objects, which is very thermo efficient, and it only gets all this extra gubbins when it really needs to. So now I'll play time, and as the tag passes, it will destroy itself and score, but very cheaply and very performantly as well. It's very efficient on performance, because this is the only thing that is powered most of the time, and then when this detects anything, these are powered for a very short amount of time. So the amount of processing involved for this object is just that thing and that thing. so it's good for performance as well. I'd like to thank VGA Port Authority, SchemeDBT, the Common People, and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Check out TAPgiles.com to find out how you can support me in helping Dreams creators. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.